Fox News Alert, stunning new reports claiming that the Navy Yard gunman Aaron Alexis was being treated for serious mental illness. We've heard this too many times, right? The Associated Press says that he was reportedly, quote, hearing voices as witnesses try to make sense of this horrific shooting rampage yesterday morning.
We all were scared to death. I mean, I have 8 employees in my location, and I mean, we were panicking. I know my nerves was on 100. So just to think that something like this happened today, it's a trying day. I mean, I guess this person just woke up this morning and said, I want to die and I'm going to take these folks with me, which is very wrong. I mean, the building that this supposedly happened in is a very secure building. So that's where we're not understanding. How could this have happened?
That's the question we're all struggling with this morning. Jonathan Gilliam is a former Navy SEAL as well as a former member of the Joint Terrorism Task Force in New York. And Dr. Keith Ablow is a forensic psychiatrist and a member of the Fox News Medical A-Team. Gentlemen, welcome. Boy, I hate the fact that we have to get together to talk about this once again. But if we don't talk about it, I don't think we can expect any change to come in the future. And it appears that there's a broken system. Jonathan, how does a man like this get a pass to get into this building?
That's a very good question. I think that's the million-dollar question, and it's something that we keep seeing happening over and over again. Just with the same thing with Snowden, now we see it here. I'm not real clear on what's happening with these background investigations for contractors. They're right now in the government, literally the backbone of the government is contractors. We have to have a better system in vetting these people that come on board. In the FBI and any other law enforcement agency in the military, when you go in and you apply for these positions, the background investigation is so thorough that they actually, screen out the majority of these things, and you have very little issues. I have no clue what's going on with the contractors, and I think it's something that desperately needs to be resolved.
Yeah, I mean, we need to use this as a test case and trace exactly how this came about in order to fill in these gaps. I'm just reminded that the government is large and effective at many things, ineffective at many things. And this is part of it that needs to be investigated. And Dr. Keith Ablow, you and I have spoken many times about, what I call this dangerous cocktail that we have seen again and again with Lochner, with Lanza, with Holmes. We have pictures of these three and the tragedy and the horror that they have wreaked on so many families in this country. And now Aaron Alexis is added to that list, right?
Absolutely. Mental illness, and again, somebody seemingly addicted to video games, but untreated or undertreated mental illness, somebody who years ago was impulsive, shooting out tires, in one case shooting into an apartment above him reportedly, in another case now being treated for hearing voices and paranoia. This is a prescription for disaster, and someone who said that he suffered with PTSD. There will be people who want to focus on the gun. We need to focus on the man and the mental health care system, which is shattered, can't do its job, and needs to be rebuilt, starting with the VA, where the system is a complete and utter catastrophe.
Jonathan, what do you think about that? The VA mental health system, and what have you seen on that front?
Well, I think this transcends the VA Medical Center or Institute, and that is that once a gun was invented and brought into this world, there will always be guns. So constantly putting attention on guns does nothing to solve these issues of mass shooters. The people, if you take guns away from the people who get them legally and have good screenings, the ones who are going to remain with the guns are going to be criminals, bad individuals, and people who have mental breakdowns. And I 100% with Dr. Ablow, regardless it's the VA, a veteran, or somebody who's just on the street, we need real effective diagnosis and checks and something that where we look at these people.
Yeah, you think about scanning and records and, terrorism lists that exist in this country. And I just feel like we've gotten so vast with these databases and these scanners that we've lost common sense. I mean, if someone has been, and now I realize he wasn't convicted, and that is what kept him off a lot of these lists. But he was arrested twice for 2 different gun incidents. He was being treated for mental illness. And I have to differ with you a little bit on the gun issue, because for me, it's sort of when you've checked the other two boxes, you know, when you're being treated for PTSD, when you have 2 arrests, even if there are not convictions, that ought to trigger something when you go to purchase a gun. That ought to say, you know, this person needs some extra scrutiny. And I think, you know, you got to have all these bases covered in this kind of situation, Keith.
Yeah, look, I agree. There were opportunities here. We shouldn't divorce, as it is currently divorced, the court system entirely from the mental health care system. There were points where a referral could have been made, and a system can be put in place that's sensitive to individual rights, but says when you have an episode of gun violence that's linked to mental illness that's confirmed by a court clinic and perhaps reconfirmed by an independent analysis from a forensic psychiatrist, you won't get a gun. That's okay because that's just good judgment.
Exactly.
But we got to start with the mental illness part, because the military, by the way, in promoting resiliency, they're all romanced by resiliency training. Let's talk to people about their pain and how shattered they are and stop with this nonsense.
I mean, this man had all the freedom in the world, and those people have lost their lives. And Jonathan, you know, what can be done to, have we gotten so careful that we're not willing to, you know, put someone, even potentially institutionalize somebody if that's what's merited? And we know in several of these cases that was considered.
Well, Martha, I don't think we disagree at all. I agree 100% with what you're saying. The interesting thing about this individual is that when there are telltale signs, why those things aren't picked up, especially when it's done through a background check. I mean, as the doctor was stating before, there needs to be things that are done on a professional level that looks at these individuals, but I really think here's the main problem. It doesn't matter if it's a hospital, the military, the government. Normally, and I've said this 1,000 times, people probably get tired of hearing it, but the people at the top of these organizations, the executives, most of the time they have little, if not any, experience of somebody like Dr. Ablow or myself. I think that there needs to be rules and regulations that are thought out by people who know what they're talking about and then pushed forward so that we can see effective change, not based on politics or because somebody is an executive and that's what they think.
We need to not let go of these issues, and they need to be pushed forward by the people who understand them at that level. Dr. Keith Ablow, thank you very much. Jonathan Gilliam,
thanks, Martha.
thank you. I hope we
pleasure.
don't have this conversation again tomorrow or next week, but it is too often. Thank you, gentlemen.